All right, we're live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to our second episode today of Let's Talk Lake County. I'm your host, David Rich. We have a couple special guests on tonight. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and kind of kick off the discussion. Joe?
Yeah, so my name is Joe Kopsik. I'm a former libertarian, and I'm the current chair of the Green Party of Lake County, which is still trying to start up. And I'm not going to cite any credentials or qualifications because I'm not in the health field. What I will do is question the argument from authority fallacy. And I just believe that people who have a body and who have health or diseases should be able to talk freely about health issues and without having to fear being described as if they're practicing medicine without a license. So that's my lack of qualification. Thanks for having me.
All right, cool. Tom?
Okay, I'm Tom from the Milwaukee area. I'm playing around with being semi-anonymous, but I live in close to the lake, and my background is I'm detail-oriented engineering, retired since 2017, but very busy in volunteer work. Yeah. And I have been spending probably, I usually say that I've spent around between 20 and 25 hours a week on health freedom and COVID. And I'm also active in anti-war issues. And so quite a few video meetings. That's probably enough for now. And I'm going to try to limit my answers to 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys, for coming on. Joe, you want to kick it off with whatever you want to kick it off with?
Yeah, so I want to start by summarizing how this conversation began. David and I were debating on Facebook with my girlfriend Nina, who studied as a health and wellness coach and is an avid researcher on vaccines. And I think it started with, we were trying to figure out whether there's a correlation between autism and vaccines. And David basically said, well, correlation does not equal causality. And
right.
Nina and I were kind of saying that, well, correlation does not necessarily equal causality. If you see a possible correlation, then that should prompt you to ask whether there is causality. And
100%.
I saw a comment from probably a statistician or something saying if there's more than a 0.4%, basically if there's more than a 70% correlation, then there could be causality. So
right.
And then we were talking about how SIDS death, sudden infant death syndrome, could possibly be related to adverse effects from vaccines or autism. And my theory, and I'm just kind of jumping into this. This is the first time I've ever had to think of it when I was talking about it. But if babies are dying in the crib, and some people will say, well, they probably died because they didn't get vaccinated. I think there's an equal chance, or maybe a greater chance, that they died because they were vaccinated. Because vaccines have metals in them like thimerosal, which is 49.6% ethyl mercury. And they also have aluminum in them. Not all of them, but some of them have both those things. And Big Pharma brags about how, oh, we took thimerosal out of most of the vaccines. It's like, yeah, most of the vaccines. So that would mean that there is still thimerosal in some vaccines. So, and if you look up, so there's ethyl mercury and there's methyl mercury. And the pro-vaccine people will say, well, one of those is safe and the other isn't. It's like, I'm not so sure about that. If you look up how aluminum and mercury react with each other, it fizzles and it grows. So you're injecting possibly two metals into someone's body, and the polysorbate 80 punctures the blood-brain barrier, so it goes into their brain. And so if you got two different metals reacting in someone's brain and it fizzles and grows, it's probably causing some kind of change in pressure, which is going to increase the pressure in someone's head. And that cranial pressure is probably causing the headaches and the constant screaming. And I would think the head banging, people bang their heads to relieve the pressure. And there's also this thing called burr holes. I don't want to dive into this too quickly, but they're like, we got to relieve the pressure in someone's brain. So you drill a hole in their head. I'm not saying this is part of traditional medicine, but like there's all these procedures we're coming up with to to kind of relieve the problems created by previous procedures and vaccinations. So I think it's possible that this increase in cranial pressure could be causing encephalopathy, encephalitis, meningitis, myelitis, that is making a baby's head too heavy to move and possibly causing the suffocation that leads to sudden infant death syndrome in the crib.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you. That's very, very, very nuanced. Tom, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so we're kind of making this up on the fly. I think maybe I can react to what Joe says rather than, and then try not to take it too far off topic. It's 44 seconds. Okay, so
you got plenty, whatever long you need to. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Well, when you use percent, you got to say percent of what, and I think we're talking mercury in like micrograms, just, and same thing with aluminum, very small. However, what I want to emphasize is, this is a concept that's very important. If you look at the human body, the way it interfaces with the environment, you have an organ called your skin. That's the biggest organ. It's interfacing between the boundary of you and the outside world. The other boundaries involve your mouth and your nasal passages and your entire digestive tract and, of course, your lungs. So the natural way that we develop immunity is by getting challenged at the layer between us and the other, between Tom and not Tom. When you do an intramuscular injection, it's different than eating something. So we get aluminum in our food, we get a little bit of mercury here and there in the environment by breathing, and it's vaporized, but it's a fraction of 1%. It's like a point, I don't know what the number is, but it's a tiny amount that's absorbed. If you inject it into the blood, it's the percentage absorbed is approaching, it's over 90%, some high percentage. So that's that. And then I guess I'll just drop a name and then maybe come back to it later, because I'm almost at I'm after 2 minutes here.
It's really okay.
But I think for other people too, so Dr. William Thompson, 2014 CDC employee. I think he may still be a CDC employee. There was a study that came out that said that in this particular study that I think involved Black males, that it absolutely did cause autism. Well, everybody in the group shredded the report except for Dr. William Thompson. So I'll stop there.
What year was this?
2014. You're going to find all kinds of links on it, and if you don't find them, I can supply them for you. Maybe it's 2013, but I see a lot of articles in 2014.
Okay, no, I'm not seeing that. I just brought up something real quick before the show started from the Mayo Clinic, and it's an article. It's not very much, not many numbers. It just sort of states, as a proposition, vaccines don't cause autism. Like, okay, you can give me a little more information than that. But the study that they're referring to is in April of 2015, GAMA, whatever that is, published the largest study to date, analyzing the health records of over 95,000 children. About 2,000 of those children were classified at risk for autism because they had a sibling already diagnosed with autism. The study confirmed that the MMR vaccine did not increase the risk for autism spectrum disorder, but it doesn't say anything else. I would like more specifics about that, the causal or correlational.
Yeah, I have like 10 links. I could drop them. I don't know if I want to get into that level, but I mean,
no, that's fine.
Absolutely no issue.
You said the name and you said the study. People can look it up if they want.
Right.
So okay. Joe, did you want to expand on that at all? Referencing or go ahead.
So something I just learned is that Steve Kirsch thinks that hepatitis B vaccine doesn't cause autism, but that the MMR vaccine does. I think RFK believes that maybe both do. But I wanted to comment on the possible reason for a higher rate of autism among Black males who have been vaccinated. It could be explained by, and I know a lot of people will challenge this, but there was a baby that was aborted in the 70s, and that baby's cells are being used in some vaccines or in the preparation for some vaccines. And of course, probably difficult to track whether the things that are used in the preparation of the vaccine actually ends up in the final vaccine. And another possibility, there's this woman named Henrietta Lacks, an African-American woman who I think died in the 50s or something. And she had a cancer, a tumor, and they harvested the cells, and it's called an immortal cell line. And they take this, it's called a HeLa cells, HeLa, which stands for Henrietta Lacks. So if you're injecting the cells that come from African-Americans into African-American babies today, I don't know how, but it could possibly explain higher risk of autism. I wish I knew the science to back that up, but there might be an explanation in there if someone cares to research it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Tom?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I kind of it's interesting. My reaction is, if you simply look at the figures, if you talk to individual parents where it literally happens, and I think the MMR vaccine is one, there's just case after case where within a day or two, the child is regressing and is showing just obvious symptoms. And so there's the many anecdotal stories of this. And yeah, I guess I should stop there because I don't have too much more to add. I am noticing that I'm having a reaction because it's just, I mean, when you're talking about the stats, now we're talking in some cohorts, some populations, we're talking like 1 out of 12 kids that are developing autism. It's getting worse. Is what's happening.
Well, I know.
One example of that.
Go ahead.
I just want to say there's a couple named David and Brenda McDowell. They had triplets, and they decided to vaccinate all of them. And they have done numerous video interviews where they describe watching one after the other. I think in the order that they vaccinated them, they describe watching the light go out of their baby's eyes, and now they have communication problems and all that.
Wow, that would be awful. Yeah, what was I going to say? What was I going to say? Oh, I did. I was listening to an interview today on NPR, driving around, some doctor talking about the rise in diagnosed cases of autism, and that some people are saying that one possible explanation of that is that the diagnosis methods have become more accurate, just better, so they're able to spot more cases than they weren't able to do beforehand. So it's not that there's necessarily more out there, we just know about more. Is that so they can report more? Go ahead.
That could explain part of it. RFK said that could be true, but it would only account for about 20% of the rise in new cases of autism. There has to be a problem in the first place for you to notice it. And I think it's increased 31 times or something. I'm not sure about that.
31.
Yeah, that could account for a small part of it, but not all of it.
Gotcha. All right.
I'm sorry. Don't quote me on the statistics. I'm trying to things I haven't.
No, you're not. No, you're fine. You're fine. You are fine. This isn't CNN. So you guys are good. Tom, anything else to elaborate on that, or you want to move on to another subject?
Yeah, I think we can come back maybe to it. But yeah, I this is my main area. There is a blogger. I'm in these Zooms, and there's a blogger who does a WordPress site strictly on autism. It is interesting because I'm within the environment that I'm in. It's just it's an absolute slam dunk, So it's difficult, when I just don't really question it.
Wait, you don't question it?
I acknowledge that I should be able to debate it, but yeah, I'm ready to go to another topic.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Well, did you want to pick one, or Joe? Did you want to go on to one?
Before we move on, yeah, would it be okay if I just want to share? Let me see if I can share my screen.
Whatever you want to do.
All right. So this is an image from the Children's Health Defense, autism prevalence and vaccine doses through second birthday. It shows a positive correlation. Yeah, I mean, I haven't analyzed this, but yeah, for anyone who wants to look it up, that information's out there.
Cool. Next topic.
Something else, we're trying to come up with another topic. Tom mentioned aluminum in food. Not trying to say that Tom's saying this, but pro-vaxxers will sometimes say, "Oh, you're worried about pigs." By the way, their vaccines have contained horse serum, which is, I guess, like horse amniotic fluid. They have contained pig cells. They've contained DNA from viruses and fungi and humans, as I mentioned before. And when you question the contents of vaccines and whether they're safe, people will say, "Oh, you're worried about pig cells in your vaccines. Do you eat bacon?" It's like, yeah, I do, but I didn't eat the vaccine. No one warned me that it was going to be in the vaccine. And, people might say there's small amounts of metals in the foods that you eat. It's like, well, we should get the metals out of the food that we eat. And this is the sunken cost fallacy. It's like, well, you poison yourself with all these things before. Or sometimes they'll say, well, you used to take drugs that you didn't know what they were in. It's like, yeah, that was 15 years ago when I was young and stupid. Now I care more about my health. You shouldn't sentence me to poison myself with more things just because I poisoned myself before. If I poisoned myself before, I can't afford to poison myself anymore. That's the way I look at it.
That would make sense. And yeah, just because, I mean, that's what did you call it? A sunken cost fallacy? I mean, I haven't heard about that one, but it makes sense. I mean, just because you did something bad before doesn't mean it's okay to do it now. Or to have it be forced on you by anybody else, for that matter. Okay, so
maybe a general comment on autism.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody has come up with that word, autism. It's
right.
to some degree, it's like the ADHD. Somebody came up with the term ADHD, right?
Yeah.
How do we? There is no one. In my opinion, there's no one thing that is autism.
Right.
Autism is
the spectrum.
Like you had a car accident, and there's a bazillion different types of injuries you can have.
Mm-hmm.
And so from the vaccine, from the damage that you have, like if you did get into a car accident, you could have symptoms of, from the head injury that would be similar to, developing the ADHD. So the vaccine injury certainly would, there's certainly toxins and abuses that can be done to the brain and to the body that can impact the brain, right? So I'm just saying that that's an important thing. We're arguing. We have this label for it, So that's just I think that's an important point.
No, definitely. I mean, like the kind of like classification or categorization of it, like a specific. You give one word, one name to like an entire set of different things, but have like a common thread. You could. It's almost like a sense of it oversimplifying it. No, for sure. Like, I had this conversation with a doctor. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not a major point, but
no, it's not.
For the ADHD, there's also associated with the vaccines are all these, I mean, RFK is somewhat right to look at how kids are raised in sterile environments. They should get out in dirt and, and then the food dies.
Build your immune system. Go play in the mud.
But nonetheless, we had talked about the sheer number. When I grew up, I think I had the oral polio, which means that it was actually an active polio virus on the sugar cube. And I had I had a mumps shot, I think. I don't think I had a measles shot, but it was like 6-7 shots, and I couldn't stand getting them. Now the count that we came up with, Joe and I, it varies depending on whether or not you're getting all the COVID boosters, but we're up over 70 shots by the time that you're an adult. And sometimes sometimes there's up to 6 at a time,
used to be
maybe
only
even more.
Five different vaccines in the 1960s.
Yeah, and this is an important point. There's various layers of an immune system. There's a complement immune system, in an innate immune system, and I'm not an epidemiologist, so I don't know if those two are orthogonal or if they overlap. But when a child is born, it needs to be subjected and grow the more adult immune system, which is a different thing. And so for the first, I don't know what it is, but it's something like 8 to 18 months. I mean, from 0 to 8 months or up to 18 months, a child does not have a decent immune system. So to subject it, the whole purpose of a vaccine is to energize the immune system into a fight against the pathogen, to develop the antibodies and to educate the immune system in properly. Now, if you don't have an immune system and you're attacking it, it doesn't make sense. So one of the arguments, yeah. Now my brain is going now, so I'm not timing myself. So I'd like to go a little bit longer. Now I'm looking at the clock. There is a Dr. Paul Thomas who turned in his medical license because he was under pressure and during COVID, and he just didn't. A lot of people fought, and I know I've got a list of about probably close. Well, I'm going to say at least a dozen, if not maybe 24 doctors who lost their medical license, probably because they were saving lives during COVID, and they were not allowed to do that. But this guy turned in his license. Well, he had a practice, family practice set up where he had 3 different plans. One, the standard vaccine childhood schedule, just, plain vanilla, whatever. Another, which was spaced out so that you didn't give the vaccines all at once. You spaced them out. You might have delayed them. And then the third one was no vaccines whatsoever. Well, he had 100,000 patients. And
Wow.
Guess what? He kept track. He kept records. And he's getting pushback when he shares those records, because what he's found out has been really eye-opening. So maybe I'll leave it there.
Okay, real quick, I want to say Alexandria is watching, and she said, yeah, and the methods of testing on animals for the research of many vaccines is problematic at best. Yeah, I mean, there are some other like moral issues to this whole thing too. Other ethical concerns. Go ahead, Joe. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, this doesn't have anything to do exactly with what he said, but since you're bringing up animals, one thing that I saw that someone was concerned about is it possible that the rise in cancer that we're seeing, like after the vaccine schedule has had all these doses added to it, is it possible that that could be attributed to how we're injecting ourselves with the cells of animals like pigs and horses and cows, which grow and mature faster than human beings do? And then another thing is there's this documentary called The End of Virology. I'm not sure if I'm getting that right. There's some documentary I watched said that it's possible that like smallpox and other diseases. So there was this comet and that went across the sky in like 1650 or something. I wish I had the details of this, but some people have theorized that comet polluted the sky with metals that fell on all these people, and that's why they developed these sores that look like smallpox. And what people have said is that the smallpox sores are leaking metals. And as people have been talking about lately, there's this thing called the MTHFR gene that predisposes people to developing the symptoms of autism. That's not saying autism is solely or strictly genetic. It just means that it has a genetic component. But if you're exposed to metal, it increases the chances of you developing autism symptoms. Well, first of all, we're injecting people with vaccines. The needle's made of metal. Some of the vaccines have aluminum in them. Some of them have ethyl mercury to thimerosal in them. And so people already have difficulty eliminating metals from the system. So people have been asking, why did God and nature mess up so bad that we don't have these metals in our system already? How did we survive before vaccines if we're supposed to have metals in our body? It doesn't make sense to me.
Right. No, I got you. No, you said something that I found interesting. What did you say? Could it be the case that we're getting cancer because we're introducing the genes of other animals whose bodies grow more rapidly than ours do into our bloodstreams, into our physiologies. And I do know that cancer is the uncontrolled rapid division of cells. That's what it is essentially. So that like actually made sense to me. Like, so like if you're putting in these cells of animals who grow faster, means their cells divide more rapidly. Ergo, it's the same. It sounds the same thing as like a cancer cell. That's really interesting. Like, I don't know if that's the case, but go ahead. Tell me, please.
Yeah, comment on that. Yeah, well, so what I'm thinking in this call, if maybe 35 minutes after the hour, if I could show a little bit on COVID, and maybe talk about the PCR tests, but
sure.
Just because Joe and I haven't really planned this out, so we're kind of doing it now. But to respond to the cancer thing, there's a Dr. William Makis. I think it's Makis. He's got a Substack, and I've heard him speak, and I've heard a lot of these doctors speak in a setting where I could directly address them, which is just, I feel really honored. And as I said, well, okay, let me stay focused here. So what we're seeing in the health freedom truth movement, to my understanding, these cancers were predicted. Now I can't substantiate that, but that's just my memory. And there is this term turbo cancer, and I can only be kind of surface level on this. I don't want to go very long, but normally cancer goes from stage 1 through 4 over a period of months, if not years. And there are cases where it can go to stage 4 in some incredibly short period of time, like 5-6 weeks. And this is just unprecedented. And then maybe back to the autism. I think we've all heard this argument on the autism thing, that if autism really if it's just an over detection problem, then, where are all the 70-year-old autistic people in group homes,
Well, that's a great point.
Right.
That's a really good point. That's a very good point.
And people have, like, RFK said that. He did a TV interview where he said, where are all the people who are 70 years old, his age, walking around with autism? And people
perfect.
Well, people will say, well, that can't, that people act like he said there must be no autistic people who are 70 years old then. It's like, he didn't say that. There's a lot of things that there are quotes that are being attributed to him that are just, he never said. He never said all autistic people. Yeah, just let me give a few examples. He never said all autistic people will never get a job. He was referring specifically to the 26% who are nonverbal. And there have been all these arguments happening in the autistic community, parents of autistic people saying, yeah, raising an autistic kid is a real challenge, and we shouldn't ignore this severe problem. And also people are worried about that parents are going to be forced to register their kids as autistic. It's like, no one ever said that. What they're doing is they're creating a disease registry that focuses on autism, and people are calling it autism registry and saying that concentration camps are going to happen.
We're like, they're not going to make them wear a yellow star, guys, when they walk around in public. Okay, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I listen to a lot. I'm not a Trump fan at all, but I was watching him pick his cabinet members. I liked Robert RFK Jr. I like him. I think he makes a lot of good points. I don't think, like you were saying, Joe, I listened to him, and he gets blamed for saying things he did not say. I'm like, words don't work that way that you think that they do, as you accuse him of saying these things. He said all. He didn't say all. He said some. Big difference between all and some. Okay, stuff like that. So yeah, no, I agree 100%. Yeah, and the legacy media, like, a registry. Yeah, exactly. Like, again, it's like wearing a yellow star. No, it's not like that at all. That's actually keeping the logistics and the data like collected in a proper organized way is a good thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, I don't believe there's any constitutional right for the national government to have control over healthcare unless and until there's an amendment to the Constitution saying that it's exclusively a national issue. But that said, it's good to be collecting information as long as you use it to help people. And I think people should inform themselves about types of information gathering about health that are already out there that they haven't criticized because they didn't know about. There's a thing called PROMIS. There's a thing called PROMIS that the government uses it was a prosecution, a database so that prosecutors can manage their cases and know where to go in courtrooms. There's another type of PROMIS that's exclusively for health. It's called the Patient Reported Outcome Measurement Information System. So they're already collecting our health data. It's just people are worried because they're worried what could happen or they have a political bias. Before we get too far away from, we were talking about, Tom mentioned how, there's all these symptoms being described as autism, and like, what if it's actually multiple diseases? Because I recently found out there's a type 1, a type 2, and a type 3 autism. Type 3 is the most severe. That's the 26% that's nonverbal. So, and it was like, what if we're dealing with multiple diseases here? And autism and polio and measles, So the way they decreased reports of polio deaths and polio cases is by breaking polio down into 5 different diseases: Guillain-Barré syndrome, transverse myelitis, and acute flaccid paralysis, and others. Like, people are claiming, vaccines got rid of polio in India. It's like, well, they still have acute flaccid paralysis in India, which has the exact same symptoms as polio. So,
Interesting.
And also, whether you were vaccinated for measles or polio determines whether you are diagnosed. It determines which type of that disease that you're diagnosed with. So they can say, well, you don't have measles because you were vaccinated or something like that. So I think they're lying
they just
about
automatically dismiss that as a possible diagnosis because you had the vaccine, even though the vaccines don't work 100% of the time. Yeah, that is a problem.
Can I interject something? Yeah, because I don't know when I'll have time with this. I just had a call today with a guy in Ireland, Patty, right, and Gary, and Gary has been working on VAERS. So I'm just the way this ties in is we're talking about government systems. Well, VAERS was formed, I believe, in the wake of the PrEP Act, which is very important to understand. That set up the eventually this MCM language that leverages emergencies, which is incredible. It's just a legal construct. But the VAERS database is kind of pivotal to the whole explanation of what's going on with COVID. And there's a lot of people that have been working on it. And so I know a software developer who's been working on it for about 3.5, 4 years. And I know several others. So that's a whole nother topic. But I just wanted to let people know that if you want to learn about VAERS, I can tell you quite a bit about it.
Okay, cool.
There was one other thing. I think, my brain's not working all that great. You mentioned Guillain-Barré, polio, and then what was it before that?
Measles and autism.
Well, yeah. I guess, yeah. This sort of, you mentioned the intrusiveness and like over regulate. I mean, yeah, I don't want government and over regulating or over parameter. Another
arbitrary, just illegitimate boundaries around research and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think I need to kind of get my feet on the ground. I'm getting a little bit off topic, but
okay. Well,
there's just so many different things. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me read a couple things from a couple comments and give you a chance to kind of regroup.
Okay.
Alexandra, this is going back to the having animals genes put in us. Alexandria again, she said, and plus those pigs statistically more than likely had gotten growth hormones themselves. So like on top of their automatically naturally faster paced growth than ours, they excelled. They got a little boost there too, which then is put into us. Yeah, so these are really great points, everyone. Geo SV40 has long been associated with tumor and cancer growth and was in the Sabin SABIN vaccines from green monkey kidney cells. Good Lord. It was also supposedly found in the COVID vaccines as well. Okay, this is interesting stuff.
Judy
I'd like
Mikovits
to address
was
that.
involved in that whole thing, and she kept a whole virus cultures alive. And the SV40 promoter, which it helps. I think it helps maybe in the transfection process. They found that has facilitated, unfortunately, propagation of, I think, DNA, which is not supposed to be in the vaccines, plasma DNA, to cross into the cytoplasm of the cell, and that's very problematic. But we're sort of on that at that point where I was hoping I could share my screen and
Joe, did you want to say something real quick while he's getting the screen up?
Yeah, I just want to address those comments real quick. People are seeing early, like an earlier onset of puberty because of like RBGH, recombinant bovine growth hormone. That's the thing that Ben and Jerry's got famous for not including in their ice cream, because it's a hormone disruptor. And to speak to Gio's comment, that's Nina. That's my girlfriend, who's the health and wellness coach and studied. And she's the person that I was talking with David that started this whole thing. And she's been helping me with my research. So she said SV40, I believe that stands for simian virus 40. The Sabin vaccine is the vaccine that was rolled out after the Salk vaccine was found to have some adverse effects. And what she said about green monkey kidney cells, she's referring to Vero cells, VERO. It's it's kidney cells from the African green monkey. And a possibility that this leads to is, like, you know how they said that HIV/AIDS was caused by transmission from a monkey? It's like, what if that has something to do with how we're using Vero cells from a green monkey in the development of vaccines?
Yeah. Okay, Tom.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm just going to focus on this. Maybe I'll react to that later. So this is an older presentation, and I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'm going to maybe hit the graphics and let's see. So I'll watch the time. I did set the timer, so maybe, I don't know, maybe 6 minutes or so. So I start with this graphic, and RFK. Actually, this is from a paper that I saw like a year and a half before RFK. We have some really creative people in our group. This is the human ACE2 receptor. Now, I'm always open to having somebody smarter than me.
It's not showing up on the screen.
Oh, it did. Is it just black now?
It's just, yeah, it's as it has been the whole time.
Oh, and that's weird because it was working.
It worked yesterday.
So, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to close a few things here. Let's see.
I wonder if while it's live, I have to do it from my side. I don't know. No, I don't think so. Because your screen is still up.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to try one more time. Let's not overdo this, but
okay.
Okay, share again, because I closed a couple things. Okay. So is it still black again, or?
Yeah, it's just the same thing as it's been the whole show.
Okay. Well, I can give you the
I
link.
can see it on the bottom of my screen. I can see with the diagram you showed me yesterday, but it's not on the main screen.
Well, why don't I give you the link and then see if you can do it? I can do
that.
I
don't know how to do that stuff here.
Oh, no, all you have to do is, you don't know how to share your screen? Can't you share your screen?
All right, wait, all right, put it back up, Tom. I think I just did. I think I have to do it.
Oh, okay.
There it is. Okay, now it's there. No, I have to do it on my side while it's live. Go ahead.
All right. Okay, so this is the I'll start the timer over. Okay. This is the human ACE2 receptor, and there are only one. You see these red arrows and these letters, these acronyms, or abbreviations. The whole human race fits into one of these. What are they? 6 different categories, and only one of the categories is activated for a given human. So it turns out that the ACE2 receptor, which is all over the human body, on human blood cells and cells in general, has an electrostatic attraction to the spike protein created, well, both the spike protein for COVID and the spike protein that's generated by the jabs. So, okay, and then this one here, I'm going to open this in a new tab. So this is going to be a little disjointed, but this is important. Let's see here. So these are people that most of these people have actually heard or interacted with. And we talked about the number of names, which you can roughly see, there's probably 40 different names here. The name, sort of my top 10 are in here. I'll just read off maybe 6 of them here. Dr. Suchart Bhakti is incredible, an epidemiologist, very knowledgeable about the immune system and virology. Naomi Wolf, I think you know about him. I would say Michael Yeadon, he's a pharmaceutical executive, former very high up, very good at pattern recognition. He's very active. Okay, just 3 more. Jonathan J. Cooey, he's a real rebel in the industries, from the University of Pittsburgh, an adjunct professor, never got tenure, got fired during COVID, and is doing a podcast. Denny Rancourt, not a doctor, but a PhD, a multidisciplinary academic. Now, Rancourt has done a study of all-cause death mortality, and essentially what he has shown is that there is no evidence of of COVID spread. It magically stopped at government boundaries. You go from one state in the United States to the other, just a few miles across, and the deaths are just radically different. Same thing with countries. Brian S. Hooker, PhD, and I don't know what the PE, maybe professional engineer. He goes way back, and he actually taught J.J. Cooey. And Wolfgang Wodak, I'll stop there. He stopped the pandemic in 2009. He had the power to do that. Okay, scrolling down. This is a flyer. I post that in a food co-op, and it's taken down. It says it's taken down usually within about two hours. So this is important. J.J. Cooey's message here is that transfection in healthy humans or mammals is criminally negligent. And transfection is basically getting the machinery required to manufacture foreign proteins, at least in the context of mRNA. You're injecting that into the body, and then the nanolipid particles get into the cell, and the process of crossing the cell boundary with a vaccine, that is transfection. And he thinks that that's really not necessary for healthy humans. For people that have lost their spleen, there's these corner cases where actually it could save your life. So I'm not against all vaccines.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. This is a detailed diagram of the process of transfection. Yeah, conceptually it's kind of interesting. I'll try to go quick. The nano particles are created in a vibration process. They're dipole complex, fairly heavy molecules, and they because they're dipole, they will self-assemble using the charge on them. And so they put them in a vibration vat along with the mRNA. It's synthetic messenger RNA, and they naturally form these bubbles, these spheres. And because the lipids are like fat, when they hit the cell boundary, the cell's like, hey, come on in. It just takes them right in. And then the outer layer breaks away, and then the mRNA is in a position to interact with ribosomes, which travel along the RNA And as it travels along the RNA, the tDNA, I can be wrong on some of this, but the ribosome basically uses the building blocks inside the cell to generate the spike protein. And over here, the spike protein, having been created, moves back out of the cell, hangs around on the cell, and then gets into the body. Now there's, yes, so I'm at 6 minutes on this, but this, this could easily take an hour.
Could I jump in and ask Tom a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Tom, you mentioned the spike protein. I saw an interview of Dr. Drew Pinsky interviewing a doctor from Korea, and Dr. Drew said that the spike protein, he called the spike protein the most dangerous part of the virus. And he said, why are we injecting or training the body to make that instead of injecting the virus? I'm not sure.
Yeah, the spike protein is designed to interact with this human ACE2 receptor. And so what happens is that when it sees that ACE2, it's got a little arms on it, and it's been kind of deactivated so that it's not as harmful as, or it's it's not the same. Long story short, at that binding site, it can like latch on, and then it can enter into the cell, and then it creates the immune reaction that they want. But what the body does, this is a crucial concept. The body has all these killer cells swarming around, and the immune system cells, I don't know this in great detail, it detects this. It detects that the cell has been compromised, and then after the spike protein from COVID gets in there, the cell is targeted for destruction. Well, this is what happens over and over again in these discussions. You also have to have a separate discussion of the spike protein that's generated by the vaccine. The spike protein that's generated by the vaccine, that's after the transfection, it too goes out and it too binds to the ACE2 receptors, and it causes inflammation. And subsequent to that, due to the inflammation, the cells that are attacked by this foreign protein that, that's human engineered protein, right? Those cells are targeted for destruction. If one or two cells get killed, the body can repair. But if you get more than a certain number, you get scar tissue. You get scar tissue in your brain, not a good thing.
No, it's not.
And this spike protein that's been generated by the jab seeks out the ovaries, the testes, the kidneys, and the brain and the heart. When it hits the heart, it's probably more important to think about the brain, because the number one side effect from the jab is strokes. Right. Myocarditis is like number 2. So, or I don't know, it's down on the list.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So would it be crazy or inaccurate to suggest that the body, the immune system is figuring out that its own cells are creating this spike protein, and that it attacks the cells that are creating it as a way to try to deal with the problem?
Well, it's obvious it's going to attack the cells that are creating it, because there's more spike protein there, right? And that protein is detected. The immune system does a comparison. It takes a snapshot of yourself when you're born to figure out who you are. So it knows who you are. And so knowing who you are, it can then identify who you are not. So it looks at that spike protein and it's like, is that me? No, that's not me. And if that's attached to a cell, it destroys the entire cell. So
yeah, it sounds like an autoimmune response. That's why people are calling reactions to the COVID vaccine VAIDS, VAIDS, vaccine-acquired immune deficiency syndrome.
Right. But now we're kind of running out of time. I'd like to mention something I think is really important in my opinion, which is the MCM, which is the medical countermeasure concept. It was invented roughly around the year 2000, and it became a legal thing. And prior to that, the PrEP Act was passed, and it all works together, so that at a certain point, if you can get your HHS secretary to declare an emergency, that person has almost dictatorial power over healthcare in the entire United States. And they can define these countermeasures. For every one of these countermeasures, and they don't necessarily have to be weapons. People get confused about that. But the countermeasures have no liability associated with them. It's a huge thing, but I know I've taken up like 11 minutes, so I think now
That's all right. No, that's all right. That's interesting stuff. Go ahead, Joe.
I have a couple of things to say. Yeah, this is all of these COVID restrictions. It's not about having our body develop immunity to a virus. It's about helping big pharma manufacturers have legal immunity. And you can look up the 1986 Bayh-Dole Act. That's B-A-Y-H, Dole Act. Bob Dole was part of the effort to help protect these companies from lawsuits. I'm glad that Tom has made a list of people who are vaccine hesitant. I'm working on my own list of that. I'm probably going to have to create a Substack because I was able to post a list of COVID documentaries. They didn't censor that or take that down. But then when I posted a list of things that have been in vaccines or things used in the preparation of vaccines that may have leaked into the vaccines, they took that down. So Blogger, which is owned by Google, is now censoring people over vaccines. YouTube, you might want to watch out for where you publish this video because they don't like having COVID videos on there.
Well, I didn't advertise it at that. They would have to. Okay, I don't know. Like I said, I had Dr. Mary J. Ruwart on. I had Dr. Mary J. Real quick, Tom. I had Dr. Mary J. Ruwart on here several times bitching about vaccines. In fact, she agreed with you a lot with what you said about spike proteins. She's very concerned about those. So go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, just briefly, I did a family video, unlisted, okay? Never publicized it. Sat there for a year, and then I got a strike. I mean, they just plain removed it. It was interesting.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I'm done. Go ahead, Joe.
I'd like to show 2 images. So let me just.
Yep, we got about 8 minutes.
Sure. And I'm going to talk about, I'm going to share 2 images, then I'm going to talk about changing definitions, which I alluded to before. Start with
do I need to post
the
this?
growth in the vaccines. Oh, you're not able to see that?
No, I put it up.
Yeah, it's good. We can see it. Yeah, go back to it.
Okay.
Go back to it.
Okay.
Yeah, there it is.
So pre-vaccines, 5 doses back in 1962. Now it's approaching 100. And that's just before age 18. So people who are 70 years old, it's probably upwards of 100. And I think that's just crazy, especially if you.
That's a lot.
Here's another thing asking, why are we giving the same vaccine dose to an 8-pound baby versus a 180-pound adult?
Wow.
People say the vaccines stopped deaths. And if that's true, then why is it that deaths went down before the vaccine was introduced, or in some cases of scarlet fever and typhoid fever, there isn't a vaccine for it or not widespread, and the deaths have gone down anyway. That's because of improvements to sanitation and hygiene and other things. So people will say, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my footing here. I'm just going to show some more images because we're running out of time. Here's a chart claiming that the measles vaccine has killed 10 times as many people as measles itself. Some people doubt that information, but they don't have their own information to counter it. I asked them. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen in just a sec because there have been a lot of changes to definitions and they're really pulling the wool over our eyes. For example, gain of function research. Anthony Fauci said the government's not doing gain of function research. Well, the problem with that is there's 2 different definitions. There's 2 different definitions of gain of function. One is when the patient who is sick regains their function after they get better. The other definition is when the virus gains the ability it gains the function to do more damage. So he could lie through his teeth.
Yeah, they make it bigger so it has a greater impact.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Let me just find a couple other things. There's also, they say, they talk about the purification versus isolation of viruses. They say we made the vaccine by first isolating the virus. That's not true. They haven't isolated a virus because when they say isolation, what they mean is purification, finding a sample that's just the virus. They haven't done that. The real definition of isolation is when you isolate the mucus sample by separating it from the patient. So taking
Joe,
mucus out of someone, it's totally different. They're pretending the same thing. Placebo is also a thing that the definition is debatable, and so the definition of vaccine is also changed.
yeah, yeah, we could just
Tom?
keep going for hours. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I typically would counter argue, and I have a citation where at least they declare that they isolated it, and I can show you the link. But you know, we might be arguing about words. Yeah, this is. Yeah, thank you. At some point, I'd like to share my phone number. If anyone wants to talk to me,
On air?
absolutely.
Okay, we'll put it in the
You
comments
know,
section.
no, see, that's one thing I did not want to log. I did not want to log in. That would see what I have to log in to Google or you know, I have to have an account. I can't go to comments. Doesn't allow me to.
Oh, okay. I can. Well,
Yeah, if
I
I
don't,
say,
Joe, could you do it? I'm on my tablet. I don't have a keyboard.
What do you want me to do?
oh, well, I
Just go
can
to
share.
comments and type
Yeah,
in Tom's phone number
yeah,
so
type
people
in
can.
my phone number. I don't know if he can go to comments. I can
No,
just
he
share
can
my.
go. He should be able to. Can you go to comments, Joe?
I'll share my screen real quick, and it's got my phone number right there. So
If you're ever in a war
to
of
click.
words, call a Buddhist philosopher. Alexandria says, if you're ever in a war of words, call a Buddhist philosopher. That's very true.
I'd like to share the number, but I have to log into YouTube. I don't think I have.
yeah, no, see,
Oh,
we
don't
don't want to do that. So there's my phone number. It's pretty big, right?
Go on.
Can you?
Tom, okay, 1414-678-9284
Right.
for any
Yeah,
and all interested.
By the way, James Rukowski, who's very active, he shares his phone number all over the world, and he'll talk to you about health freedom stuff. But that's
that'd be great.
Let's wind out of this. Okay.
I just want to say there's a couple topics that we should have gotten to. One is the link between getting rid of DDT and the subsequent decline in polio. Another thing is how there were early treatments that were denied. You know, when COVID hit, everyone was thinking about how do we prevent this? How do we prevent this? It's like there's a bunch of people with the disease already. How about we talk about curing them for a second? And so that led to the suppression of ivermectin. And Tom has a big list of other medications that are probably effective. Hydroxychloroquine, which is not chloroquine.
Right.
It's a different thing. So, and there's still people today who think that ivermectin is horse paste. And there's
and that it's really interesting because Dr. Ruward addressed all these things. You're spot on. You're saying everything she said. This is very cool.
Oh, one. I want to give you a number.
Can I just wrap that up real quick? There's people who say don't take ivermectin because it's for horses, but at the same time they'll take ketamine, which is a horse tranquilizer.
Right. What's that, Tom?
Yeah, one number: 17 million excess deaths. Due to what? Due to the combination of the actually, the change in medical practice is huge. The corporatization, there was a coordinated change worldwide in the way people were treated in the hospital. And then, of course, there was the vaccine. But there's 17 million excess deaths, according to Denny Rancourt. So this is incredibly serious. This is the biggest single thing in my entire life. I'm 70 years old. It's bigger than any war I've been exposed to. I'm talking about COVID.
Okay, cool. Well, obviously we have a lot more to talk about. Huh?
Could I just throw in a word? Look up Dr. Tom Cowan if you want to learn about someone who questions the very idea of virology and how these vaccines are created.
Can you spell his last name?
Yeah, Cowan. You can watch the documentary "The End of Virology."
Yeah,
The End of Virology. Okay.
I want to distance myself a little bit from that group. I respect them, but
that's fine.
Yeah.
All right. All right, great. Well, we're at about an hour here. So guys, thanks for coming on the show. Yeah, we have a lot more to discuss for sure. Thank you. Very nice presentation. Very well done. Very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. So yeah, very cool. We'll have to keep in touch and have you back on soon. And yeah, everybody, thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk Lake County. Hope you enjoyed this show. Hope you learned a lot. Alexandra says thank you all, and you are welcome. Alexandra, thank you for watching, and Gio. We'll talk to you next time. All right, guys, hold on 1 second just so I can give you a proper goodbye. Yay, wave.
Oh.
There's a